Now we're going to put together a lot of the things that we've learned into sketching on location. In this lesson, you'll learn how to select a view to sketch, how to apply the simple 3-step process to creating your sketch, and how to then add line, tone, color, detail to complete your sketch. Today, we're in beautiful Denver, Colorado at the Washington Park Boathouse, a really lovely old building that'll be really fun to draw. I've taken a look at different views. One of the views I considered was an end view of this building because that would be a nice 1-point perspective elevation view and it would show a nice relationship to the water. Another view I considered is a 1-point perspective view along the long side of this building. So let's take a look at what that would look like as a 1-point view. All right, so the first thing I would do is figure out how to sit relative to this building. And I am sitting where I am looking squarely at the corner of this building. My line of sight is basically perpendicular to the face of the building, right? At right angles, straight ahead. So the next thing I'm gonna do, now that I'm sitting and looking squarely at it, is use my pencil to measure the proportions. And I am going to line my pencil up, move my arm back and forth until some portion of my entire pencil or part of my pencil down to my thumb aligns with the corner of that building. And then I lock my arm in place and then I drop the pencil. And I can already immediately see that the 2 outer corners of those columns actually form a square, which is great. So that's a really easy shape to transfer to my sketchbook. Then I'm going to locate my eye level line and vanishing point. So I can find my eye level line first by holding out my pencil like this. And it looks to be just below kind of that horizontal beam below the handrail and just right above those brown windows, somewhere in there. So my eye level is a horizontal line running right through there, straight in front of me. Next, I'm gonna find my vanishing point. And a great way to think about doing that is to think about shooting an arrow, right? If you're aiming an arrow, you don't wanna tilt it up to hit the target. You don't wanna tilt it down. You wanna hit it straight in front of you. So that's gonna show me where my vanishing point is. I can also extend the lines of the edge of the roof and other lines that I see that are vanishing away from me, even the little scoring line in the paving. And that will show me where my vanishing point is on my eye level line. So my vanishing point looks to be almost right below that tiny little downspout that's sticking out. So that's what I'm gonna use in my view as my reference. I'm gonna pin that point in my view. It looks to be about maybe a little more than 1/3 of the way up my elevation and just to the inside of that column. So I now have the shape I'm gonna draw, my eye level line, and where my vanishing point is relative to that first big shape. So let's take a look at that in a sketch. So let's start with the big shapes. I'm gonna, of course, start with my edge. And again, how tall it is. If I make it this tall, my building's gonna be really big. If I make it shorter, my sketch is going to be smaller. So let's draw that square in. If you look for squares in architecture, you'll see them all over the place. And they're so much easier to draw than pretty much any other shape. So there's a column that continues on. We can suggest that a little bit. Then there's the column here. There's that at the base, and then so there's the big shape. Let's draw in my eye level line, which looks to be about here, and my vanishing point, which is on that eye level line, which looks to be maybe right about in here. So that was pretty easy. Those are the 3 steps. Let's take this just a little bit further and see if this is worth pursuing this view. So I add the edge of the roof. Let's use the vanishing point for the side of the roof. And let's just measure this angle up. And then it stops right about there. Then, of course, we would add more detail in here and the railing. So this could actually be a really nice sketch. It's a really simple sketch. We could even include a little bit of the background over here. But I think it'd be more interesting maybe today to try and do something a little more dynamic. So remember the 1-point view straight on. If I turn ever so slightly, it's going to generate a 2-point perspective view. So let's take a look at what that will look like. So when I shift the angle of my view, I'm now going to get a vanishing point for these lines on the front of the building, angling off to somewhere on my left. And then the lines on the perpendicular side, on the other side of the building, are going to angle somewhere off to my right. Something that you can do that's really helpful when you're sketching in the field, just to sort of figure out what's where, is to align your arms parallel to the face of the building. So this arm is parallel to the front of this building, and this arm is parallel to the side of the building. And it gives me an idea of where my vanishing points. If I hold my arms up right at eye level, I see that vanishing point is directly in front of me again, and then the other one is going to be way off there somewhere. It's way out of my picture. So I'm going to have to measure and approximate those lines that are angling down to the vanishing point way off on my left. So let's start sketching this view. So we're going to start with the corner of this building, and I'm going to locate it more or less a quarter of the way into my page. And that's, again, that line that establishes the height of my sketch. So now what I'm going to do is take my pencil, measure that edge, and then drop it and measure how many units of that pencil wide my building is, even in perspective. There's 1, 2, 3. Actually, 3 takes me to the column that's just to the left of the stairs. 4 takes me to almost to the end, and 4.5. So I know that in my sketch, I can sort of block that out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That would put the end of the building over there. I think I need to make it a little smaller or move it over. Let's try. It's easy to start over at this stage because it's just really light lines. So let's slide it over and make it a tiny bit smaller, so I get the proportions of the building right. All right, a little smaller. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So that would put the end of the building right about there. And I think that's okay for my sketch. So now let's see if we can get an idea of what that first big shape looks like. This is why 2-point perspectives are much more challenging than 1-point perspectives. So I'm going to pop it up just a little bit, because as I look at the building, I think it's a little different. Oops. So that's maybe kind of the shape of the face of that building. So now let's put our eye level line into the sketch and our vanishing point. So the eye level line was maybe right about up in here. It's going to come straight across, all the way across my sketch. And then there was that column here. Let's get that bay in. That might help us locate the vanishing point. So there's the end. And the vanishing point was probably right about there. So there's the front of the building, the big shape, and we can still adjust it if needed. The eye level line and the vanishing point. Now the ground line at the bottom is going to be much flatter than this one because it's closer to my eye level line. The closer a line is to eye level, the flatter it will appear. We're going to see that as we draw other aspects of this sketch. All right, now I'm going to use diagonals to find the center of this in perspective, because that's where the entry to the building is and those stairs. All right, so there's the center in perspective. I know that I'm going to have a bay here where the stairs are. I'm going to start to roughly block in some of these columns. So there's going to be 3 openings on this side. 1, 2, already need to move it. I can make adjustments. Now's the time to do it. And then 3 on this side. 1, 2, nope. So a bunch of lines in there, but it does give me an idea of what's where. All right, and then we're gonna have the back side over here in perspective using this other vanishing point that's on our sketch. So let's try sketching in some of this roof. So there's an overhang, so this projects a little bit. And then we have the front face of that gutter, which is a material that needs to be shown as having some thickness. It extends, projects off the side. And then I can hold up my pencil and just kind of measure this angle. And it comes up to, if that's my final line for my column, it comes up to kind of just the inside of that column. And then I can eyeball this angle going off to the vanishing point on the other side. And from this projecting corner, I can see that the top of the roof goes almost to this third column over here. So maybe something like that. And then I can use this vanishing point to get the sides. Going back in perspective, right? Okay, let's try blocking in the stairs. So remember, if this is our vanishing point, I'm going to do a light guideline up. The stairs are happening right about in here, and they're really close to my eye level line. I'm going to first draw the wedge in perspective. And the bottom of the stairs hits right about there. So now I want to get this angle. I can hold up my triangle and measure this angle. And it looks to be something like this. And where this light guideline intersects that vertical is where my vanishing point is. So that'll help me draw this other side. So now we've located the stairs in perspective. And of course we can add railings. That's a detail we can add later, but I'll just show you how to do that now using the vanishing point. And there's a landing up there. I can just kind of add that in. So there are the stairs and railings in perspective. They don't have to be perfect angles, it just needs to be believable, which gives you a lot of wiggle room. So now let's block out some of the other big shapes, like the tree, maybe a suggestion of this little stream that's in front, and the hot dog vendor and his umbrella, and a sense for where the background is going to be so that we can see the overall composition. Let's work on that now. All right, so I'm going to add some suggestion of a tree here. And just like the building materials, I want to use the quality of my line to indicate that it's a natural form. So that's where the tree is going to go in. Hits somewhere down here. I pick up my pencil a lot. There are going to be leaves hanging down. Then we're going to get this stream coming through here. It's also pretty much going to that vanishing point that's way off onto my left. And then there'll be some grasses sticking out. So that'll be a nice texture for the foreground. All right, so let's see this guy over here. He occupies that corner. I'm just going to roughly block it in. A little bit of a table, using that vanishing point as well. And then the umbrella is going to go right in here or something like that. There's the shape for the umbrella. Then there's a little bit in the background. There's the lake back there. We don't see too much of it. What'll be really nice to show are those trees and a little suggestion of the water and the lake behind. All right, let's start to add a little more detail into the building. I think I'll work on that for a little bit now. So basically, I'm drawing the big shapes and then breaking them down into smaller shapes and then those shapes into smaller shapes still. And I've also added some information because we need to see the back wall. Through each of these openings, I can see the wall that's on the other side. And I'm going to be painting that in as dark in my sketch with watercolor. Let me show you a little bit about how the roof works, and then I'm also going to focus on drawing some of the detail. I really want to show a lot of the detail near the entry of the building because the entry is often the focal point for a building. So that's where I kind of want to build up all of that tone and that line work to draw the eye right to the entry of the building. And I might also add a little bit to the corner because it's close to us. All right, let's see that in the drawing. So to get the roof angle in, we go back to the center line, and where it hits the ceiling or the top of the wall here, then it's going to actually pop forward in space. And then it's going to angle up this way. And I think it's a slightly different pitch from the one of the stairs. So it would in fact have another vanishing point somewhere way up here. But I'm just going to eyeball that because I know that directly above this, any lines that I draw in my roof are going to be straight up and down, and then they're going to start to angle more and more and more as they go this way. This is not going to the vanishing point. This is not going to the vanishing point. I'm just really talking about the slope of the roof. And even though it's a pretty homogeneous roof of composition shingles, I always like to show kind of some little lines showing the direction of the slope. I think it's really important. It really helps the roof to read well. So I'm just going to add some light lines in here. And notice they're not following this line, they're following the slope of the roof. And that just helps us understand what that shape is doing in space. Just even adding a few lines helps. I'm kind of ignoring the composition tiles. Now I'm going to add a little more detail into the stairs and in the area around the entry. The entry to the buildings is often a focal point for the building, and it's nice to make it a focal point for the sketch. And it also saves time, so I'll really concentrate adding detail and line work and information right around that entry. Let's take a look at that in the sketch. Now let's add just a few more lines to finish up the line work of the sketch, and then we'll add watercolor. And now I'm going to quickly add some watercolor to the sketch. I'm going to let some of the colors run together because that adds a lot of activity and life to the sketch as well. I'm going to start with a blue sky with some yellow at the horizon. I'm going to try and keep a swath of light color through here so it feels like light's hitting it. Probably keep the faces pretty light or white from the white of the paper. I'll build up some color detail here. I will create a frame for my image so I get some dark, light, and then dark beyond. And then of course I'm going to add some information, some color along the eye level line, and those wonderful 3 spots of color are going to go right on these figures. All right, let's paint. Enjoyed sketching in the park today. We've packed so much information into this class. I hope you've learned a lot, and I hope you'll take what you've learned and apply your own style, your own way of sketching to doing your work. I really want to see what you do, so please post your sketches, ask questions at any time. I'll be here to help. My name is Stephanie Bauer, and this has been The Essentials of Sketching Architecture.